live.
We joke out when we go to the parent involvement stuff.
You're live.
Oh, I'm live. Hello. We're talking about food. We passed around chocolate for all of you that aren't there and you missed it. All right, so we're moving on to the what happens, the sending home early issue, which happens a lot. Having your child sent home early, that does not count in their 10 days, basically because usually there's no paper trail. So what I hesitate to say, but has to be said, is we usually have to say make them suspend them. So, because parents are getting called, come pick up your child, come pick up your child, come pick up your child, and then there's no documentation that your child has been sent home. They're not getting put in e-school as suspended. They're not getting, they might be put in at, sometimes they're not even being put in as absent, or that absence is not being recorded as a behavior problem. So when the time comes and you want to ask for a functional behavior assessment, or you want to ask for a change of placement, or you want to ask for a para, or you want to ask for some other services for your child, there is no record anywhere that your child has been, no documentation anywhere of your child having had all these problems, okay? Now, I guarantee you, if they're trying to shorten your child's day, if they're trying to do something, they will have loads of documentation on it. And I don't mean that bad. I send kids home early. Normally, if I thought they couldn't make it, again, if we think the child will be better, if they can't handle a whole day, then we need to do that. We need to have the data. We need to have the documentation. If they're saying, well, the child can't make it all day, well, fine, but we need to know if it's because of, do we have an appropriate plan going on in the classroom? Do we have appropriate supports? Are they doing what they need to do in the room? Have we done a functional behavior assessment? I've had more than one school district try to cut a kid's day in half, and they have done nothing that I could find. They have not done appropriate behavior supports. And that's another one of the resources I put in there, is all about positive behavior supports. The child did have autism and behavior issues. They were not using visuals with this child. They were not using any sort of supports for him. He was not getting any supports for his sensory processing. None of that was happening, okay? They were, again, he had reached the age of 10, so they were getting school resource officers and juvenile justice involved. And I'm like, what are you doing to help him stay in school? Instead of, he can't handle it, send him home. And mom was taking off work and she was coming and getting him. And again, I feel for the teachers, I do. But there has to be documentation. I don't want suspensions going on kids' records. I don't. But there has to be documentation somewhere other than just mom keeping track of it, because that's just you. And again, it goes, if you look on the My School resource, you can look up every school in the state of Arkansas and see how many kids have been suspended, where they've been going, all behavior incidents, and they don't want to put them on there. And I don't blame them. They don't want to put them on there. And again, they'll say, we don't want to put your son in that position, we don't want to put your daughter in that position, and I know they don't. Okay? But without that documentation, you don't have a leg to stand on if you're going to ask for additional supports, if you're going to ask for a behavior assessment, if you're going to ask for something, if your kid's going to need it, you've got to have the documentation. So sometimes it has to take a parent to stand up and say, fine, my kid can't make it all day, suspend him. If he's so bad you can't handle him, suspend him. Put it in writing. Because then they have to do paperwork. There has to be a paper trail. There has to be documentation. And I don't want to do that to any kid. But sometimes we have to do that. Get it part of the 10 days. I have one I'm dealing with now. They already sent the kid home 6 times in the past several weeks. Director of Special Ed didn't know anything about it. Special Ed coordinator didn't know anything about it. Mom asked the principal what to do. He goes, I don't know. He said, I'm just trying to make the school safe. And the mom's fine. She knows the child has lots of issues. She doesn't want anybody hurt. And I said, I know that. I know you don't. I said, but we need to have a meeting and talk about maybe we need more supports. Maybe we need more staff. But he can't get more staff. She can't ask for behavior assessment. She can't do that because there's no data. All they've been doing is sending him home earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier, which creates a learned behavior, as we know. You know, I have an issue with one that they started that when he was in kindergarten, and now that he's in the age of, now that he's in second grade, he's destroying everything he can find because he's just escalating to get to go home. So, I mean, it's a no-win in a lot of ways, but I mean, I hate to recommend that for anybody, but sometimes you've got to create that behavior trail to get what we need. Because those 10 days are those 10 days, and they will use every 10 days. So they don't want to give them up. So they may have to decide, well, is it worth one of those days to send him home, or can we find a way to keep him here? Because the goal is to keep him there and educate him. Okay? So I don't want to be that person, but sometimes I have to. All right, on the forms I gave you, just going over them real quick, the important things you need to know. Again, your rights are here. You have to say that you got your rights. Different means of attendance. It used to just be you had to be there, but now they've got through alternative means. Do you know what that means? You participated via alternate means. Do you know what that means?
Phone?
Usually it's a phone conference. I hate phone conferences. I had one the other day, and I literally was laying there on my couch with my eyes closed, trying really, really hard to listen to everything that was going on. Okay, yes, you can do them, and yes, sometimes it's really helpful. I detest them just because I'm so distracted. I want to be there. My boss loves them. Shelby loves them. She would prefer to do them. I'm like, I want to be there. I want to see you. Mm-hmm. I want to talk to you. I want to interact with you.
Non-verbals.
Yeah, non-verbals are important. I want to be in the mix. So again, that's what that means. Or parent did not participate. Okay, that should only be on there if they have that contact log that they have to fill out. They show they have tried to get in touch with you. Okay. That does not mean that they have sent you an email, that they have sent you a text, that they have done all this stuff. They really should have tried hard to get in touch with you, okay? Sending it home in the backpack, I know we do that. They really need to send that certified mail, get it to you. If you're not getting contacted, let them know. Let somebody else know you're not getting it, okay? So if you see parent did not participate, okay, make sure you tried. They try to get in touch with you. Parent guardian input, okay? Read this carefully. Parent guardian input regarding enhancing the education of the child was considered, okay? Please put your input on there. I have literally seen on there the parent gave input.
And I like to say, write it in your own words. Let you write it yourself. Don't let them paraphrase it for you.
Yes. Wording is everything, okay? They will paraphrase what you say, and sometimes that's not a bad thing, but sometimes they will reword what you say to be in the nicest, most politically correct way possible. This is your section, okay? If you want to bring something written and have it attached, you can do that. Or you can ask them, may I write on there, okay? Or you can say, may I have a computer, may I type on there? Or have them read it out loud to you, okay? But this is your area. And again, this is not a place to bash everybody, but this is a place for your concerns, your thoughts, positive, negative, whatever, but this is your space, okay? But again, you're relying on somebody else to write that on there, so listen to the wording, because again, you're giving it to somebody else and they're gonna make it as PC as possible because other people are gonna read this form and nobody wants to sound bad. And I'm not saying that you would say bad things, but sometimes you have to say bad things. Or not so nice things. But they'll try to say, well, the parent had concerns about, you know, how this was happening. And they're going to try to put it as nicely as possible. And you, again, you want to put it as nicely as possible. You want to be as, you know, upfront as possible. This isn't the true second page, but I put the consideration of special factors page of spots for you to be aware of. Communication needs. Okay, they kind of lumped all the communication into one spot. So it's not just for deaf, hard of hearing, language communication needs, opportunities for the child instruction in native language or communication mode. So if you have a child that has a talker or a device or some other way of communicating that's not verbal, that goes there, okay? Communication mode. Because I have parents who struggle with schools using their devices, okay? So if they have a textbook, if they have a device, if they have something, some other mode other than verbal communication mode should be right here, okay? That should be checked yes. And so that should be something that needs to be taken with them wherever they go. You know, whatever you guys have talked about in the meeting, but that's one on there that's new and different, that communication mode. So that happens for our kiddos again. If visuals need to be used at all times, you know, anything like that you can think of that affects their communication, right there. And again, the same thing with assistive technology and devices. If there's something that your kiddo has that they use, and it doesn't have to be electrical to be an assistive technology device, that's right there. Positive behavioral interventions and supports and other strategies to address behavior. That does not have to be a formal behavior plan. Other strategies to address behavior, okay? It could be, are they using a token reward system? Are they using anything that they have to do to address your child's behavior? They might say, oh, they don't have a behavior plan, we don't have to check that. That's where it says other strategies to address behavior. So if they're doing something in your child's class, specifically to work on your child's behavior, if they're doing something, it can be addressed on here. If you want that addressed on there, if they're doing something just for your kiddo. Now, if it's for everybody, okay, if it's for everybody and it's not specific just to your kid, or if they're not tailoring it just to your child, then it wouldn't need to go on there. But most kids with autism, they're going to have their own, or it's going to be specific for them, and it may just be, you know, they need their specific area of interest. And it could be on there again. You may have to put food items are allowed. You know, some schools, you know, with the whole health things, you can't have food. So they may put something on there that food items are allowed on there. You may have some sensory stuff. You know, that may be where the sensory breaks are allowed. You may have to do some other stuff on there, but that can go there. But again, it doesn't have to be a formal plan. This supplementary aids and services and program modifications, accommodations, and or supports for personnel, this is in the general education or other education related setting. Okay, so if your kid goes out somewhere else and there's some supports needed for those other teachers, that can be addressed right there. Okay, and then down here, this big other one, are there other factors that need consideration? Okay, that's where we can address things like attendance. Okay, those of us who have kiddos that go to private therapy,